What's up, everyone? Welcome to Sports Snobs with Pat and Kaz. Check us out on thescenesnobs.com. Subscribe to the podcast. Check us out on Twitter at SportsSnob, Pat at SportsSnob, Kaz. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, don't forget to tune into our weekly picks show as well that we air every Saturday. So,
hey, you forgot about the Sports Snob YouTube channel that our producer Mick so kindly put in, and
you're right.
Our friend Guapo is doing a boxing show with us as well. So
you're right.
Good one.
I forgot about the YouTube. The problem is I forgot about the YouTube because I got harassed by my co-host for my attire last week. So I was hesitant to let people, in on seeing us while we do it because I was a little self-conscious after last week. But
was it the hat or was it the decorations that you didn't like?
No, I loved it all. I received threats to burn the hat though, so we'll have to move past that. But,
just other than mine?
No, just yours. I was trying to keep it anonymous. Try not to cause a rift here. Anyway,
if the guy calls me, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
All right, let's start off as we always do with the NFL weekly recap.
Let me clarify real quick. I said burn the hat, not burn Pat.
Oh,
so
yeah.
FBI does call me. It was the hat, not Pat. Okay,
burn Pat's hat, not Pat. Okay. Glad you clarified that. I could see how that can cause some confusion. But let's kick it off, pun intended, with the weekly recap in the NFL. So we'll do a little rapid recap this week. So I have 4 games here lined up that I thought it was a rough week in the NFL. I think it wasn't a very exciting week.
It was for me. It was for me. I'm now going to be number 1 in the fantasy standings. I get home field advantage if that's really anything in fantasy. But you shit the bed, and I got home field. Thank you.
Yeah, living in that fantasy world. That's the only world in which you are number 1. But
hey, I live in my basement, so the fantasy world is all I have. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, four games that I thought. Well, first of all, Thanksgiving really kind of threw off the whole week. I think we got stuck with two garbage games. Two absolutely.
Just ignore those. They didn't happen. They didn't happen. They weren't there. They were that bad.
I think if you lose, you shouldn't be allowed to play on Thanksgiving until every other team gets a chance to play on Thanksgiving, which means the Lions would only play once decade. But anyway, let's go to Sunday and let's
Colts. Titans and Colts.
Kick it off. I know you had some fantasy implications there. So
I had one.
Big one.
He played very well. He's starting to look like a number 1 wide receiver, and he's my flex. So Cooks played very well. But the Colts, they came in looking hot after that Green Bay win. And the Titans, we talked about it last week. The Titans, they had that 3 or 4 game lull where they weren't looking that good. But my God, Derrick Henry, he's a beast. And now you have two wide receivers with Corey Davis. That Tannehill, an ex-Dolphin, who I liked a lot, honestly, as a Dolphin, but just didn't have the right system there. They're playing great. But the Titans, they're so inconsistent. The Colts now, I thought they were an AFC East, AFC championship contender. Top 3. I don't know anymore. I might have to put the Titans ahead of them.
Yeah. So they had a few injuries on defense, big players, DeForest Buckner being one of them. And I mean, that'll go a long way in stopping Derrick Henry. But yeah, and I said it before, I just don't trust Phillip Rivers because there's going to be games in which the defense is not going to be able to carry you, right?
You are going to die on that sword of the Phillip Rivers sword.
I am going to die with the stupid sleeves that he has. But anyway.
And the 11 pads, 9 pads, what does he have? I don't even know.
They can't keep track. But anyway, yeah, I mean, the Titans are a good team, inconsistent. It's unfortunate, though, because they, in my opinion, they are the one team, and we'll see towards the end of the season, they're the one team that if all things click and all things go well and their game plan is efficient, they're the one team I think that can really knock off the Chiefs just because of their ability to run the ball and pretty much they can have 40 minutes of possession in any given game.
Like many people talk, the NBA playoff basketball is different than the regular season. The NFL is run, control the ball, play defense. The Titans are doing that. And they have a couple players that can get that 3rd and 8 catch. Their tight end, what's his name? Fisker?
Ferkser.
Yeah, whatever it is. He's there as well to get that 3rd and 6. So I went from the Colts being the 3rd best to possibly the Titans.
Yeah, I think it's going to flip-flop every week. Whoever wins that division is going to have the easiest route, obviously. So we'll see. That's going to be a tightly contested division till the end, unlike some others. But another decent game. I don't think it lived up to the hype on both sides for both teams. But Bucs-Chiefs, it was a hell of a game for the Chiefs, a hell of a game for Patrick Mahomes, and a hell of a game for Tyreek Hill. I mean, absolute. It was just backyard football, and nobody can cover Tyreek Hill. They made him look like he was Jerry Rice out there. It makes absolute. I just don't understand.
Jerry Rice? I wouldn't even say Jerry Rice because he's a hell of a lot faster than Jerry Rice.
I'm just saying statistically.
Rice get 12 catches for like 100 yards. Tyreek Hill had
13 catches.
But how many yards did he have in the first quarter?
200 something.
Yeah. That's not Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is one of the greatest wide receivers ever. But Tyreek Hill, that was just all speed. Even though he's going to race Adam Schefter, giving him a 40-yard chance. But whatever.
We digress. Anyway, hell of a game for the Chiefs. Patriots, they didn't show up in the first half. I'm sorry, not the Patriots. I got Tom Brady stuck in my head. The Bucs didn't show up in the first half. Bruce Arians is just doing a terrible job of game planning. And they won by 3, the Chiefs, but it wasn't even close. The game never felt like it was competitive. Patrick Mahomes is just out there, just messing around, throwing the ball, heaving the ball down the field. Tyreek Hill juking defenders left and right. The Bucs defense, I don't know what happened to them. Statistically, they were one of the better defenses through the first 5 weeks.
I'm worried about the Bucs defense.
You need to be worried about the Bucs defense,
though.
No,
I'm worried about where the hell is Godwin, Evans, Antonio Brown.
They don't have the right coach for all those players. That's the problem. It makes zero sense. They're not all going to be there in the next by 2 years from now. They're not all going to be on the same team. There's no way.
He'll be in a retirement home in 2 years from now. He's 47.
I'm talking receivers. He's 58, I think. Right? I don't know. It was a good game. It just wasn't as exciting as I guess it was expected.
It was exciting to see Tyreek Hill put up 200 yards in the first quarter. That's exciting.
Yeah, first quarter. That's it, though.
That's all he needed to do.
Yeah. Well, 2 other NFC teams that are fighting for a playoff spot in the same division. Probably, I know we said it before, but possibly still the best division of football, the NFC West. Rams and 49ers.
It was an ugly game. Ugly game. How many turnovers were there? 6?
Too many.
It was an ugly game. Again, the NFC West looks phenomenal one week, and then 2 of the top teams that are competing for it do this week. Where, yes, was it competitive at the end? Was it we won a game on a field goal at the end? Yes, but you had 6 turnovers. It was an ugly game. I was not liking either team, and I really think the Seahawks have that one wrapped up.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add there is that I think we just need to watch out for now. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But Richard Sherman came back. They got some offensive players back. The 49ers, they looked how they looked last year. A solid defensive team. Granted, we don't know what to make of the Rams and Jared Goff at this point, but they were solid defensively. They did just enough on offense. And that's a team to watch out for because they can totally sneak in there as a 6 or 7 seed this year and really make things interesting.
Can run the ball. Who is this kid Wilson? When he's healthy, he's actually playing very well.
That's what they did last year with their running back committee. They took nobodies and made them somebodies. It's kind of like a Patriots type of offense. But I don't know. We'll see that they're going to be a team to watch, a team not to watch, a team that should just take off the rest of the season. And
you love this team. You secretly love this team, and that's why you like talking about them all the time.
Who, the Bears? The Bears? No, I can't stand them. First of all, Matt Nagy, why are you wearing a visor, bro? You have no hair. It's just odd. It's an odd look. I hate visors. I'm sorry if anyone listening wears visors. Visors, they're not, unless you're playing golf or tennis. It doesn't work. But anyway,
next week I will have a visor. Next week I have a visor.
All right, we'll match that up with my Giants hat. But the Bears are terrible. No. The Bears are awful. They scored 10 points through the first 3 quarters. Again, this game looked closer on paper than it actually was. I think it was 40, 41 or 47, whatever it was, 40-something 10 after 3 quarters, and the Bears put up 15 in the fourth because the Packers were just messing around at that point. What a disappointment. They started off okay, and earlier in the season, you thought they were going to be a playoff team, right? And their defense was number 1 in the league through the first few weeks. And now they got nothing going for them. They have absolutely zero offense, absolutely terrible coaching. They have
I would never say they have zero offense. They have no quarterback. Montgomery is very impressive. If he had help, he'd be even better. But you can't go Trubisky and Foles and no help there. So there's 8, 9 in the box every time.
Yeah, well, that's the story of every team, though. I mean, you could say that about any team if they were just coached differently or they had a different DM or whatnot. They'd be better.
We get rid of Nagy.
And we'll see what happens. But it goes back to the GM too for drafting so poorly. And just real quick, this has to haunt you as a Bears fan. This has to absolutely haunt you. You drafted Mitchell Trubisky in 2017, number 2. Players that went after him who are probably more successful at this point, just off the top of my head. One which you mentioned already, who flies under the radar: Corey Davis at 5, Jamal Adams at 6, Mike Williams at 7, Christian McCaffrey at 8, Patrick Mahomes at 10. That's got to sting. Marshawn Lattimore, Deshaun Watson, the other Watt, the one on the Steelers, TJ Watt. The list goes on. You have to feel absolutely terrible.
2020, you draft for your position, but I never liked Trubisky. I never thought with his college resume,
it was like 9 games.
That pick
played like 9 games, and they moved up. That's the worst part, is they moved up to do it, so it looks even worse. But
hey, he had a great combine. That's why I don't trust the combine.
Yeah, I don't know why they even still do that.
Watch the tape. See what they do. Don't worry about what they can do running the 40 in spandex and a tank top. Don't worry about that.
That's what we're going to do next year for flag football. We're going to have tryouts. Going to have an NFL combine.
I look good in spandex. I'm going to tell you. The tank top, especially after Turkey Day, I might have to lose a few. But the spandex side, I'm good.
Relax. Which brings us to the next part of the show. We got some decent reviews on the React or Relax. I like this segment.
We have 4 or less reviews. I'm curious.
No, I got more than 4.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I got fans.
They don't have viewers last week.
They don't they don't send in feedback to the show, but they let me know through text or I'll talk on the phone. But yeah, react or relax. Here we got 5 statements. You can either react to it. You could either say to relax, like Aaron Rodgers would say, just relax. If you think the statement is absurd, which I think last week you thought every statement was absurd, or you can react if you agree with it, feel like you want to respond to it. First one, which was I saw it all over TV, all over the radio, and that is the Broncos should have forfeited.
See it on the radio. I'm just curious.
You can see on ESPN.com. They have little articles, right? And the articles they talk about.
See it on the radio.
Yeah,
you can't see it on the radio.
Yeah, you can.
No,
they write articles.
Our podcast on YouTube. You can't see our podcast on Spotify. You hear our podcast.
I'm checking out. Call on the subs. Someone else take over. I'll kick back and relax.
That's normal. That's normal for you.
Sure.
Tapping out.
Anyway, you think the Broncos should have forfeited?
So I'm going to react to this one, but not for the Broncos. I'm going to react and say, if anyone thinks the Broncos should have had a forfeit, then the Ravens absolutely needed to forfeit. The Broncos, they have 3 quarterbacks out. Sucks to be them. The Ravens have, 20 players out? And all they do is keep on moving the game. And the game's been moved almost 7 days. And the NFL talks about player safety, but now you're going to have players playing on Wednesday afternoon. And then 4 or 5 days later, play again. So that should have been a forfeit, because you can't reschedule with no buys now. You can't. So it should have been a forfeit by the Ravens, because they said the strength and conditioning coach was the cause of it. So you found the cause. It was inside the house, so to speak. Forfeit. If you got to move a game 7 days because of COVID, forfeit. The Broncos, 3 players, sign a practice squad guy. I got a phone call. They saw me look good in my orange jersey playing flag football. I'm just saying. It wasn't televised, but they tried to sign their QC coach. Wasn't allowed because he's a coach and they wouldn't allow it. They called me. The money just wasn't right because I ain't blowing out a knee.
Yeah, which is very, very possible. So I'll stick to the actual statement that I made first and say, relax. I mean, so I'm kind of agreeing with you in the sense that the Broncos, no, why are they gonna? Why would they forfeit the game? To your point, you have your whole team there, just one player. I mean, there's teams who could have had the same exact situation. I mean, the Saints that's what the Saints did. Taysom Hill is not a quarterback. Taysom Hill is a tight end. He's a special teams player. He's a running back.
They pay him like a quarterback?
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's teams that could have run straight Wildcat the whole game. Right? Take the Panthers. If that was the Panthers and they had no quarterbacks, Christian McCaffrey could have ran for 200 yards, probably threw a couple touchdown passes. Problem is
this week he's hurt.
Yeah, if he wasn't hurt. I'm just saying that the Broncos.
Don't remind me that he's hurt.
That game was just the quarterback should be ashamed of themselves for I guess taking their masks off and screwing it up. But
if you can't have a quarterback that can play as well as Sam Darnold, then why even have a franchise?
That's a good point. Good point. Which brings us to the next one. The Jets should bench Sam Darnold.
I'm good at these transitions. Come on, dude.
Yeah, you are. Tell me more about that. Let me take this one first. Okay. I'm going to react here, and I completely agree. The Jets should bench Sam Darnold. He has no future with the Jets. They have no intention of keeping him. There's no way you can, right? If you go 0-16, you have to draft a quarterback. Every time they trot him out there, he becomes more susceptible to another injury or to make these injuries worse on his shoulders, on his hip, on his ribs, whatever injuries he's going through each year. His trade value is going down because he just looks terrible. And Joe Flacco looks, comparatively speaking, looks amazing because he can actually throw touchdown passes. Sam Darnold can't seem to do that. And he had the full complement of players. He had all his receivers back. It looked bad. It looked bad for having a full team. Their first drive was solid. But after that, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Threw 2 interceptions again. Inexcusable. He's not elevating his team at all. There's quarterbacks who are doing far more with far less, especially last week, having his full core players. Like Joe Burrow, for example.
Full core players. Who are his full core players?
Rashad Perriman, Denzel Mims. They had a full offense. They had all their players who were injured.
Nobody is even close to being a household name.
Look at the Bengals. Who? AJ Green, who could barely probably walk at this point. He probably uses a hover around when he goes home. And then who else? Who else did the Cincinnati Bengals have? Joe Mixon was out. John Ross, I don't even know what he's doing anymore. He's just fast. I think he was having issues with the team. Tyler Boyd is the only player on offense that you probably could throw the ball to. Their tight ends are
Giovanni Bernard, Joe Mixon.
Yeah, because these are all pro players. I mean, come on.
Giovanni Bernard and Joe Mixon, actually, probably both of them have been all pros.
Absolutely. There's no way Giovanni Bernard's been an all pro. But the point is, even if you took half of Joe Burrow's stats away, he'd still be better than Sam Darnold. The problem is Sam Darnold. The Jets have ruined him. They need to get rid of Sam Darnold. Get rid of him. Let him start fresh. He could be good.
Jets helmet over here, but I'm not a Jets fan at all. I'm not. But the problem, I feel Sam Darnold is getting screwed because I know from personal experience, Adam Gase sucks. And now he is the play caller. So you have Frank Gore and P. Ryan as your running backs. Frank Gore is older than me. Think about that. Okay? And P. Ryan, he had some potential, but he's not doing it. The offensive line sucks. You mentioned 3 wide receivers, which nobody besides a sports fan will ever have heard of or ever will hear of. So he got put in a bad situation. I'm not saying he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think he's in a bad system and a bad situation.
All the more reason why they should bench him, because they're just making his value go down. They're losing by him going out there because he's just looking worse and worse. You're not going to get the same value that you would. You could have probably gotten a 2nd-round pick.
Josh Rosen
in the middle of the season. I doubt
all over.
Sam Darnold isn't going for more than a 3rd or a very, very, very high 2nd if it was like the 49ers who finished with like a 20-something pick or something like that. I don't know.
The Dolphins got Josh Rosen for a 3rd and then dropped him.
Yeah, it had. I mean, hey, Kyle, look what happened with Arizona. They threw him to the side for nothing and drafted Kyler Murray. I mean,
I don't feel like he's a bust as much as that. I really feel it's the system. I feel that he could be the next Tannehill who goes to a better team, a better situation with a better defense and a better running game and can control the game.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that he could be decent on another team. I just think the Jets need to see that and say he has no future with us. Let's play it safe with him so we don't screw it up for ourselves and get as much back for him that we can. Speaking of terrible,
a bottle of water and a couple of bags of balls. That's what they're going to get.
That's worth more than Anthony Lynn at this point, in my opinion, coach of the Chargers. If anybody watched that game, if anybody saw it on Red Zone or Sunday Ticket, whatever the hell you have, I mean, what? I don't want to go into the specifics because it'll take too much time, but He's going for it on 4th down. He's running the ball with 20 seconds, and he's down by 10. I mean, among other decisions throughout the game, which were just inexcusable. He may be the worst coach. So I'll react and I'll agree. He's up there, and you have to excuse Adam Gase to the extent that the Jets are a crap organization and he's terrible. But at least Adam Gase knows when to punt the ball, knows when to pass the ball, knows when to kick field goals. Anthony Lynn doesn't know how to do that.
How to go 0-16. That's what he knows how to do. He was the Dolphins coach. He was horrendous. How he got another job as a head coach and looked crazy in his introduce. No. Adam Gase is clearly the worst coach in the NFL. Lynn, he goes for it. He tries. Does he make stupid decisions? Sure. But he's not the worst coach. He has his team motivated. Name one Jet that has come out and said anything positive about Gase. No one. You will not hear people saying that about Lynn. Just saying.
I don't know. The Chargers should be better than they are. They have a good team. So
they also have a quarterback who was supposed to play week 1 and got his lung punctured. So if you blame anything on the Chargers, blame it on that stupid doctor that doesn't know how to give a cortisone injection.
They're better off with Herbert, so he did him a favor. I wouldn't be surprised if someone say, I need you to mess this up a little bit. Last one here. All right, this is debate. This is highly debated. I saw it on TV today. I heard it on the radio. A lot of people talking about this. Okay, the Bills in that game gave up another Hail Mary. It seems like their defensive backs can't jump off the ground more than 5 inches. So the statement here is you can out jump the Bills defensive backs.
So
react or relax?
React. I'm totally reacting. Now, if this was 2-3 years ago, oh my goodness, I'd Randy Moss them all day. Few years older, but I can still get 5 inches off the ground. They cannot. How? How can you're a professional athlete. Do some squats, do some calf raises, get the weight up, jump. I can do it at my age.
Well said. I would react too. It's pitiful. It looks terrible. I don't understand how it happens twice, and it's just they I don't know. They're all in the same area, and they don't jump up, don't knock the ball down. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
My son Brody jumps higher than them.
Watch that come back to bite them in the playoffs. They'll be in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes will throw it to Tyreek Hill, who's 5'8", and Tyreek Hill will outjump the entire Bills defense.
He only has to get up about 6'3", because I think their tallest cornerback is like 6'1", and he gets about an inch off the ground. So
exactly. So that would just make it all come together at the end.
Page 2 of notes. Page 2. Come on, let's go.
Moving over to college football. So not a lot to cover here. But the college football playoff rankings, it started last week. They just had, and for those who are probably wondering why we were talking about the Ravens-Steelers game in hindsight, it's because the episode airs on Thursday. We're filming on Tuesday. So, but anyway, for the college football playoff, they just released the rankings again. Nothing changes 1 through 7, 8 and beyond. There's some shuffle there. Who cares? Those teams really have no shot at making it. I
don't believe that.
All right, so let's start. Let's start with this. If the playoffs started today and you decided who the 4 teams were, who were the 4 teams, and what's their seeding, and then we could jump into who else we see outside that might make a jump.
I'll go Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, Clemson 3. I think everybody has that as the top 3.
Yes.
For 4, I have 3 teams. I got maybe Ohio State. We'll get into that a little bit later. Texas A&M, and you said out. I believe they're outside of the top 7. Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati can make it.
Nah, there's no shot. There's no shot. I agree with your first 3. There's no debate there. Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson. I don't think it's going to change. Clemson might go to 2. None of them are going to drop, is what I mean. Clemson might go to 2. Notre Dame might fall to 3 if they play again in the ACC. They play in the ACC.
I actually see if they go to the ACC game, I see one of them. Whoever loses goes to 4.
I don't know.
They won't want that to be a 2-3 matchup and a third, the trilogy of the year. That's what I see.
I guess. But right now they have Ohio State there, and I can't disagree more. I'm not saying Ohio State can't make the playoff, but there's no way right now they can be in the top 4. Like if it were to start today, they're basically saying Ohio State should be in there and Texas A&M shouldn't. Texas A&M, the only loss they have is to Alabama, which was 2 months ago. 2 months ago. And they have quality wins. They play in a solid conference. Florida, they lost the head-to-head to A&M, so it makes sense that they are behind A&M. But Ohio State should not be ahead of either of those teams, in my opinion. They shouldn't be ahead of A&M, and they shouldn't be ahead of Florida. If they finish the season undefeated and then one of them loses, then it makes sense.
Why do you say they shouldn't be ahead?
Because they played 4 games. And what's their quality win? What's their quality win? Their conference is terrible.
Ohio State, before they even played a game, was ranked in the top 3.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
The NCAA made rules that if you play 6 games, you're eligible for the playoffs. Now, is the Big Ten a good conference? No. Rutgers is going to beat Penn State, which is unheard of. So no, it's not a good conference, but Ohio State's a good team, and if they get the 6 games, I can see why you would vote them in for the top 4. Is it fair to those teams that played 9, 10 games and lost 1? Absolutely not. Is it fair to those teams that played out of conference and not just the Big Ten, which if Texas A&M, Cincinnati, I'll even go Cincinnati, was in the Big Ten, they would be undefeated.
Yeah.
So it's not fair, but Ohio State has that hype, and that's what the votes are all about, dude. It's always been if you're a big name team, the Power 5, you get in. If you're a BYU, you still sit outside the top 10 because you don't have that name. Is it fair? No, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds this week's game is still up in the air. They might not play the Michigan game. I don't know if they don't play 6 games.
I heard Michigan's going to tap out.
That's what I heard too, so that they don't make the playoffs. So it's kind of messed. The Big Ten championship, rather. Which then you'll have Indiana without a starting quarterback playing Northwestern. Yeah, that's really attractive.
So if I was Big Ten commissioner, and we've talked a lot about Michigan and what we feel about Harbaugh and all that, but if Harbaugh bails out of that game, the Big Ten Commission should give Michigan so many suspensions, scholarship restrictions, no TV money, nothing like that, because that is a bullshit move if you bail out of the game. Now, if you have COVID issues, fine. But if you're just going to be like, nah, I don't want to play, get the hell out of our conference, get the hell out of go back to the, or not go back, but go to the FCS. You don't belong here. Because if you're going to bail out because you don't want your competitor, that'd be like North Carolina last year, basketball. NCAA basketball, North Carolina going, I don't want to play Duke this year because we're not really that good and I don't want to ruin our record. No, fuck that. You play the game, have some respect, and do it.
Yeah, I don't think they would actually do that. I feel like not a school like that. I could see teams in more inferior conferences or less notable teams doing something like that, but it would be hard to prove.
No, they wouldn't because they make the money when they play those big time schools. So
well, yeah.
Appalachian State playing Michigan, even though they beat them one time, or Michigan State, they made like $4 million for that game.
Yeah, I guess it would just be hard to prove that there was any, I guess, wrongdoing in that decision not to play. But I don't know. Well, I don't see it happening, but we'll see. Crazier things have happened in 2020, so it wouldn't shock me. Speaking of 2020, and I don't want to say crazy things, but hell of a weekend for Vanderbilt. Now, no one talked about Vanderbilt all season. They haven't won a game. They are 0-8. They are absolutely terrible. They didn't score a point last week. It was embarrassing. I don't know why any football player in high school would want to go to Vanderbilt to play football, especially because they're in the SEC, and that's just never going to work out for them. But Sarah Fuller becoming the first female to play football in a Power 5 conference, and I have a few thoughts on this. One, obviously, all she got to do was kick off, and everyone is killing her for her kickoff. It was a squib kick. It was meant to be a squib kick. Everybody online is saying, "Oh, what a terrible kick." A, you're an idiot because it was intended to be a squib kick. B, I bet you 90% of the population couldn't kick a squib kick as well as she did. Now, I haven't played organized football since high school, but kicking off it's not easy at all. And if anyone watches college football on a weekly basis, how terrible are college kickers on kickoffs, on field goals especially. I saw one kick this weekend. The ball was 30 yards wide left of the uprights. I think he was trying to kick it into the tunnel. He thought he got 6 points for that. It was absolutely terrible. So the fact that people are jumping her for this kickoff, the real people should really be jumping Vanderbilt for not even giving her a fair opportunity to kick off again because they don't score. The only time she kicked off was at halftime when they had to kick off because they got the ball first. And if you don't score, you don't kick off. And they got shut out. It's absurd that people are overlooking that and saying, well, it was a terrible squib kick, which I don't know.
So my take on it is everybody's talking about how historic it was. And to your point, all she got to do is a 20-yard squib kick. You talked perfectly about it was a planned squib kick. It wasn't anything like that. But to be historic is not just to put on pads and kick it 20 yards. Not her fault. Her team didn't allow her to do anything else. Historic would be she got a field goal. She got a touchback. You said it's hard to do a kickoff. Yes, it's hard to do a touchback. It's hard to do a field goal. Again, I'm going to use my son Brody. He can kick the ball 20 yards in a squib kick. All right? It might go out of bounds. It might. I'll give you that. But I don't think it was historic because she just suited up. I want to see a female player suit up and actually be able to contribute to a game. And that's no offense to her. It's just the game did not allow her to contribute. And I heard she's going to be kicking next week. Hopefully they gain more than 20 yards this week so she can get a field goal.
Yeah, hopefully, because that's a bad look for them to kind of ruin what could have been, to your point, even more historic, right? Not just to kick off, but to kick a field goal, even if you don't win the game, it put some points on the board.
First female to ever score in a Power 5 versus first female to put on shoulder pads and dress up. I'm not disrespecting what she did or what happened. I just don't see it as that historic that she walked out there and squibbed the ball for 15 yards when there are other athletes in other sports that have been done more historic things and broken other barriers and actually performed. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Vanderbilt might be historically bad this year. But we'll see. Hopefully a better chance this weekend.
And, I wish her the best, and I will root for her. I'll put it on actually, let me get my DraftKings app. She kicks a field goal this weekend. I'm going to say 40 yards and under. That's my pick.
We'll see. Like I said, field goals are not easy to come by in college. It's some terrible kickers in college. So,
well, it's also the wider hash marks that also comes into play.
Or these players are just not athletic at all, and they're just like,
hey, how many players go from college to pro?
Not many.
And how many pro kickers can't kick a 43-yard field goal?
Yeah, but they look okay doing it.
I don't look at their ass and their junk like you do, so we'll go from there.
Way to ruin that segment. Speaking of junk, NCAA basketball kicked off, and I say this because it's a shit show already. How many canceled games, postponed games? I mean, there was probably more postponements and cancellations than there were actual games.
The last I heard was there was 125 currently canceled or postponed.
That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. There's teams who have played 3 games already, and then I was watching Seton Hall last night, and they're playing Iona, who hasn't played one. That was their first game. It's just, I get it. It's a long season. They have until March, obviously, essentially, right? February to complete the season. Played 20 some odd games, maybe 30 games in a perfect world. But at this rate, are we even going to have March madness, or is it going to be May madness?
We're not going to have. All right, I shouldn't say we're not going to have March Madness, but we're not going to have the traditional March Madness. There's no way that they're going to have a 64, 68, whatever it is now, team tournament. Because unlike football, which we've seen lots of cancellations in college football, you get one player that gets COVID in basketball, he probably had contact with 3 other players. That's 25% of your team. You only have a 12-man roster. So you got to cancel. And it's not like football where it's 1 game a week. You're talking 3-4 games a week. So if you do the standard 10 to 12 day quarantine period, you're now missing 6 games. So it's not going to be the same. They're going to have to go smaller. I think they're going to go to I don't want to say 16 because I want it bigger, but my heart says it'll end up being a 16-team tournament in a bubble. But I hope they do 32 at least.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think at this rate, there's no way. Maybe it's in March, but then it's not going to be madness. It's going to be just a regular kind of playoff type feel because there's not going to be any major upsets, right? Because you have 16 teams. That means you have 1 through 4 seeds, and a 4 beating a 1 that happens every year. It's not
and
4s win it.
You won't have those small schools.
Yeah.
Like Loyola.
Florida Gulf Coast or Loyola, whatever, Chicago.
Yeah, you won't have
Sister Jean. Yeah, you need a Sister Jean. But here's my thing, just real quick before we close this out. I don't understand, especially given the fact that most schools are remote, right? You're not in class, right? Most of it's virtual. At this rate, and I know there's geographical issues because not every conference is literally located in that area. Like Big East, you have DePaul in Chicago, right? And you have Creighton in Nebraska. So they're not in the East. I get that. But for the most part, each conference should just bubble up. They should bubble up in a central location to that conference. You could still attend your classes. It's all virtual. So you find
who's paying for that?
If they're playing basketball, then they're getting ads on TV. They're getting money. But if they don't play, they're going to end up losing money in March. How much money was lost last year by not having March Madness? It would be a wise investment of the NCAA to say, hey, this is our approach. We want to bubble up. We're only going to play conference
But here's
games.
what I'm going to say, right? Yes, it makes sense. But then doesn't it strengthen the case of the athletes saying, we are not student athletes. We are professional athletes. You need to pay us.
Hey, not a more perfect time for that to come to the forefront.
I would never disagree that they should get paid. I'm just saying the NCAA will not let that happen.
Yeah, well, they don't let much happen, but I mean, they got to do something because at this rate, you're not going to have. It's not going to be March Madness. It's just going to be regular playoffs. And so, two teams that probably wish, real quick, that their games got canceled: Virginia and Kentucky, both losing, terrible upsets. Virginia, I'm not surprised. They've done this before. They've been down this road. They got knocked out by a 16 seed 2 years ago, I believe, in the tournament. Kentucky, that's not like them. That's unfortunate. I don't know. I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things because it's so early in the season. No one's going to look back and say, "Oh, Kentucky lost 3 games, one of them to Richmond or whatever team they lost to." But yeah, they definitely overlooked those 2 games, and we'll see. We'll see if it has an impact at all. But I mean, I don't think it will.
The big thing is, and a lot of people don't know this because they're not televised, but normally you have scrimmages in college basketball. They're not preseason games like the NBA that are televised, but you have these little scrimmages where you can get your team together. And with COVID, they're not having it. So these are their scrimmages. So I'm not surprised that teams are stumbling. It was a short training camp or whatever you want to call it, practice season for them. I'm not surprised that there's going to be these upsets, but in the long run, it's not going to matter because you're going to have a 16 or 32 team March Madness tournament, and it's all going to be the big names, and Kentucky can go 0-32, and I guarantee you they'll somehow make that tournament.
Yeah, speaking of scrimmages, good transition again. I mean, you're on fire tonight with these transitions. I don't know if they're intended or not, but
I got you.
I know you paid some money to watch some boxing this weekend. Now, it wasn't a scrimmage. You can't tell Mike Tyson that, obviously.
It was worse than a scrimmage. It was worse.
Well, they didn't advertise it and say, check out our boxing scrimmage between Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. But what? I mean, they said before the fight, before the whole event, right, that they couldn't have Tyson, at least. I don't know about the other fights. Well, the other fights ended in a knockout, but the Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., they couldn't. No, there was actually couldn't knock anyone out.
There were 3 fights on the undercard that were actually legit boxing matches, like legit people that are up and coming. The last 2, yeah, we'll talk about those, but I want to be honest and say the bottom 3 fights were legit boxing matches with legit fighters that I enjoyed, and Guapo and I, who will have a show on this channel soon, we talked a lot about, and there were some good fights there, but for $60, yeah, no. I wish I would have watched the free UFC fight instead.
Yeah, I didn't even think twice about not paying for that. It just sounded terrible. I don't.
First time in my life I was disappointed for buying a Tyson fight. Normally it's because I only got to see 30 seconds of a Tyson fight. This time it was I got to see, what was it, 6 rounds, 2 minutes apiece, 18 minutes, where the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. It would be like you and me in a boxing ring right now, except I'd win. It wouldn't be
if it was you and me in a boxing ring, it would be like Nate Robinson and Jake Paul. Me being Jake Paul, obviously.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because the Nate Robinson knockout, it got I hate Nate Robinson. Always have as a basketball player. So having that happen, and it reminded me of a great movie back in the day when I was young, and a certain saying that came out. So I know Mike did a little production to help me explain.
You betcha. Oh! Jake Paul caught Nate Robinson on the way.
Good night, Irene.
Robinson.
You got knocked the fuck out, man. Give me my goddamn money.
Absolutely accurate.
One of the greatest movies of my childhood that was quoted almost every day in high school and college. So it lasted a long time. Chris Tucker, great in that movie. And Debo, come on. Debo got knocked the fuck out. Nate Richardson got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, that was violent. He just looks like a fool now, but
I heard he made like $600 for that fight.
Well, it was all for charity. Did anybody make any money?
Tyson made, I heard, $1 to $10 million based on pay-per-views.
Congratulations, you just paid Mike Tyson. How do you feel about that?
I fucking hate it. I hate it. It was the worst thing I wish that COVID wasn't here and I was not as, living in my basement, and I went over to Chris's house and let him pay for it. And apparently he had food and beer and everything like that. But instead I paid the $50 to $60 to sit in my house alone and be totally disappointed. But that's life, sitting in my basement being disappointed. It's typical.
Yeah. Well, something you don't have to pay for is this podcast. So please, that's our episode for now. So check us out, scenesnobs.com. Won't be as disappointing as that Tyson fight, I guarantee it. Scenesnobs.com, Sports Snobs. Check us out on Twitter at SportsSnobPat, at SportsSnobKaz. Like I said, stay tuned for our weekly NFL picks show, which, as I said last week, just a teaser, it's going to be phenomenal this week. I'm getting great attire. It's sponsored. I can't release too many names right now. I don't want to spill. I don't want to share too much because I'd rather it be a surprise, especially for you. I know you're looking forward to it.
I'm glad you have attire because your picks are not good. So
this past week wasn't bad for me, but we'll see. We'll recap those on Saturday, and we'll see you then.